Check out those two.
The Voyeurs is about Thomas and Pippa, a young progressive couple that notice that their new apartment has front row seats to everything that goes on between two of their neighbors, and as such, the two of them play witness to a rather typical brand of infidelity, sexual coercion, and domestic violence that may or may not just come with coupled city living. The movie is about privacy, intimate relationships, and what happens when you make the fight against temptation a fight to begin with. Or at least that's what it would be about if you stop the movie at the hour-and-a-half mark and don't subject yourself to the remaining 30 minutes of actual nonsense, where it's revealed that Seb and Julia have been faking their lives and have been watching and recording Tom and Pippa's reaction the entire time.
Seb and I lived a version of our life for Pippa and Thomas to see. Yes, we created our own narrative and made it available for them to watch. We gave them front row seats. And they did.
What makes this twist so hard to stomach immediately is the complete lack of build-up or even mild suggestion. Everything we see is presented straight-faced and there is no hint to be suspicious at all. The only thing that did feel a bit weird was the sheer amount of coincidences, but I had no reason to believe that any movie with an eye motif this overbearing would be trying to subvert my expectations. There are eyes everywhere, from the inciting incident to the occupations to the opening credits. Photography and optometry drive the plot about as much as our characters do, and the rawest deal of the movie goes to a musician of all things. The motif, thick as it may be, was easier to forgive when I thought the movie was just about learning to mind your business, but with the twist, all of the eyes are just as pointless, making no use of the characters or their relationships at all.
Maybe we should just call it off now.
Oh yeah, maybe just like quit while we're ahead.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Nice talking to
Yeah,
you.
nice.
I'll take half of my stuff.
And I will take the other half of the stuff.
From the minute we are introduced to Tom and Pippa, we can understand them as your perfect corny-ass couple. They are comfortable with each other, maybe too much so. They're taking a big step in moving in together, and they both see this as a new beginning. Pippa, who has spent her early 20s studying and focusing on her career, wants to finally cut loose and make up for lost bad decisions, while her boyfriend Tom,
I was thinking about taking up the accordion.
instantly you can feel a push and pull between the two, with Tom's exhausted wild side being just flexible enough to accommodate Pippa as she grows into just how unhinged she truly is. Early on, we see that Tom lacks the certain amount of passion that Pippa is looking for, seen when they close out their first night together without sex, much to her disappointment. You get the sense that what keeps them from fully connecting is the case of right person, wrong time, more than a lack of compatibility. When the time comes to start snooping and eavesdropping, they make a pretty decent team until it becomes hard to ignore their difference in motive.
Hold on.
Aww.
This moment, for example, is a preview of what will eventually break these two. As they complete the setup of their makeshift laser beam surveillance trick, the last step is finding where the light from their neighbor's apartment is being reflected to. And to find it, Pippa decides to use the chalk from the drawing Thomas made for both of them earlier that I'm sure was meant to commemorate their new home. It's one of the more blatant, low-key examples of how much Pippa is willing to pursue this goal at the expense of Thomas and his vision for their relationship. She doesn't ask or apologize for erasing the drawing at all, and in fact doesn't even acknowledge Tom's disappointment, which is made worse considering that the whole laser pointer gag was his idea. When Pippa passes up an accordion in favor of the set of binoculars they end up using for the rest of the film, the act feels selfish and inconsiderate, but not malicious, and maybe it isn't her responsibility to explore his hobbies for him. The erasure of the drawing feels a little bit more intentionally disrespectful though, made that much worse when you understand that Pippa is a little bit too preoccupied to even form that desire to work against or mistreat Thomas in the first place. It's hard not to feel bad for him as he puts himself in quite the situation by breaking the law to break the law, and I can't help but feel like he wouldn't have contributed if he knew it would drive them apart, as these things do.
I want to know that I can trust you.
You can.
I want to feel like I'm enough for you.
You are.
This inability to truly be on the same page is in direct opposition to Seb and Julia, whose ability to work together seems almost fantastical. To go this far, the Halloween party, the sex, the photo shoots, and every other implausibility that comes with a plot twist this obtuse takes like-minded work ethic, ability, and desire. And somehow these two have managed to find that in a romantic partner. Thomas can't even find a girl who would at least give him a heads up about an accordion that he mentioned directly to her. The two of them almost work together too well, which is a shame because the reveal of all of this manipulation ends up breaking the film, removing any sense from the proceedings and showing us that the stakes were never that high to begin with.
It's a tragic tale of a sweet young woman named Pippa.
This is where I tell you to watch the movie. I have spoiled a great deal, but I haven't spoiled everything yet, so there's still time. I'm about to crack this thing wide open, but first, a bit of backtracking to set the mood. Thomas and Pippa move into this apartment not knowing that it belongs to their neighbors and that their lease agreement doubles as them agreeing to be photographed. Their neighbors were also very aware that they were being watched and played along with the events of the movie in hopes of getting material for their exhibition in which Tom, Pippa, and their voyeurism are the subject. As part of this whole scheme, they stage an entire outward relationship almost, complete with passionate sex, everyday romance, and infidelity, the latter of which begins to weigh on Pippa's heart so much so that against Thomas's wishes to not get involved, she uses Julia's wireless printer to send her a message letting her in on the cheating. Thomas finds out and is upset, but in time is willing to forgive Pippa until they learn the next morning that Julia has killed herself. Thomas, furious that Pippa's actions have led to someone's death, breaks up with her and then storms the fuck out of there. Pippa, on a roll with the ideas, then decides to follow Seb to a bar, and one thing leads to another as they usually do. Thomas would witness their entanglement when he returns home, presumably to make up with Pippa, and once she returns home, she finds his body hanging, apparently having killed himself because of what he saw. Pippa grieves and then once more with the good ideas goes to Seb's newest exhibition, which he invited her to before they had sex, or before her boyfriend died. Once there, it's revealed to her and the entire audience that the whole thing was practically a setup, and Seb and Julia go into detail about Tom and Pippa's snooping, how it led to Pippa's time with Seb, and how that would eventually lead to Tom's suicide. Embarrassed beyond repair, Pippa decides to move out when she notices that one of Tom's drinks might have been poisoned, leading her to put together that while she was with Seb, Julia was staging Tom's suicide as an attempt to make their exhibition that much more successful and captivating. This works and the two apparently become very successful, that is, until Pippa reveals that she knows what they did, drugs them with a gift bottle of wine, leads them on a chase to her optometry office, and once the two are unconscious, burns their corneas, making them permanently blind, if you can believe that. I was immediately put off by the whole thing. I was already confused as to why the movie didn't end with Julia or Tom's death. Ending with Julia's death makes the whole thing just about minding your business, and we get a nice little bow to wrap it all up. If we end with Tom's death, then even more so, just a little bit more convoluted. Either of which would have been more sensible than this. I genuinely could not believe a story this engaging and by the numbers soiling itself in the oddest way possible. Not to mention the lack of ethics and logic that go into displaying a picture of a dead man's hanging body that you killed. The sequence turns what would have been an enjoyable step up from a Lifetime movie into a film that's almost hard to recommend, knowing that all the good things about it make a complete exit before the ending. I always like finding an okay movie, something that's inoffensive and just a little bit easy to watch. When I get into things I really like, I can get overwhelmed with so many positive feelings or things to say that I feel drained, or on the other hand, end up hyperfixating on whatever it is to the point of restlessness. The Voyeurs was setting up to be open and shut, nice, cozy atmosphere, clear and easy to read characters, and then it just backflips right onto its neck. The film isn't even that bad in the end because a majority of it is still very watchable. It's just that the twist and everything after isn't even a little compelling after the confusion. It all ends up just being a bit odd and I guess a little bit funny. The truest virtue of the Voyeurs is the atmosphere. Before the movie turns on itself, Pippa's late nights and the occasional windows into other couples' lives pulled me right in, and I became interested in the nuances and quirks of others' day to day. It's just a shame we couldn't get a bit more of that for our main characters. I'm also a bit disappointed with the lack of actual sex.